Hello, devoted geeks, and welcome to Comm Talk, the podcast extension of Geek Devotions, a show from devoted geeks who are devoted to letting you know that you are loved. I'm Dallas, and ladies and gentlemen, we are on the back end of our 40-hour live stream fundraising event where we were working to raise the funds so that we can establish a nonprofit status for Geek Devotions, and it was an absolute blast. Managed to raise up to 40% of our funding that we needed, and we are so thankful for everyone who participated and everyone who has donated. We really do appreciate all you guys have done. That being said, as you can guess, we're a bit tired. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be activating one of our legacy files, one of the John Haru files that we have. The Haru protocol is what we call it. And what you're about to hear is one of our lost files. For those of you who are new to what's happening here at Geek Devotions, our original podcast host went down, and we actually lost 13 of our original episodes of Comm Talk. And so we've been slowly re-releasing those. So today, guys, you're going to be hearing episode 10 of our podcast from July 23rd, 2017. And it was called From GoLion to Legendary Defender. And this was where we sat down and Celeste and I looked at the original Voltron, King GoLion, the original anime that Voltron was based off of. And then we gave our impressions when you compared it to the modern day Netflix counterpart, which was called Voltron Legendary Defender. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, stick around, hit the subscribe button if you like this content. And next week, Celeste and I are going to be giving an update on Operation 501, which is, again, the fundraiser we've been doing, because there's some really exciting things happening this week based around it. So we'll have an update for you guys next week. And we'll also be having a conversation about a new anime coming out called Bleach 1,000 Year Blood War Part 2. So that being said, let's activate the protocol.
Garden files lost. Now activating John Haru protocol. Garden files found. Initiating lost files.
What if that Voltron, Defender of the Universe, was originally something very, very different?
Captain, we have a proximity alert with the planet Geekery. We are approaching collision.
Quicks, get somebody on the comms, enter in the security code.
257. Security code accepted.
Hello, devoted geeks, and welcome to episode 10 of Comm Talk, the podcast extension of Geek Devotions, the YouTube show from a couple of devoted geeks that are devoted to letting people know that they're loved. I am Dallas, and with me is
Celeste!
And on today's episode, we're going to take a trip through time as we talk about Voltron Legendary Defender, Voltron Defender of the Universe, and King GoLion, the Japanese anime that they use to create Voltron Defender of the Universe.
I want you to do me a favor, though. As you listen to this podcast, please interact with us. Send us your thoughts on what we're saying via Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find us simply by looking up Geek Devotions. If you are watching this on YouTube, then leave comments down below and interact with us on our Facebook and Instagram. And perhaps you can be the next Devoted Geek of the Week.
So when we started out with the concept of this podcast, our thoughts were to compare the Voltron from the 80s with the current Netflix series, especially since our friends over at Retro Rewind Podcast just did an amazing job with their Geek Devotions they did on our channel, which revolved around Voltron and how we should have unity within the body of Christ. And like I said, this has kind of morphed into something a little bit different.
Just a little bit.
So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by talking about Voltron, Defender of the Universe versus GoLion. Because like I said, we started off, let me give you guys some premise. We started off watching both Voltron Defender of the series, or Voltron Defender of the Universe, and then also Voltron Legendary Defender. And this is a tongue twister. And we watched up to the point where they first form Voltron. It's just kind of both those kind of give a good basis of what the series is about and the premise of the show. But then on a whim, we're like, well, let's watch the first episode of King GoLion, which was what everything was based off of.
We then proceeded to watch the first 4 episodes.
Because it was so interesting, though.
It's so good.
And so very different. So for this first part, let's talk about those differences between Voltron, Defender of the Universe, and GoLion. Just some background. GoLion was actually created back in the 80s. 1981 is when GoLion first came out. Voltron, the Defender of the Universe, it came out in 84.
Okay.
And so it was a few years later. And actually, just fun tip, or fact I learned while we were looking into this, the guys who created Voltron Defender of the Universe, the one that we saw in the 80s as a kid here in the States, they weren't originally supposed to get GoLion. They originally had contacted and licensed a different series, but it got sent to them on accident. And they just kind of ran with it. Like, you know what? We kind of like this, so we're going to go ahead and keep this. And they created Voltron out of it.
So what I'm hearing is that they might be in line for a legal issue.
No, because it kind of got passed up.
Oh.
This was like back in the 80s. I mean, this is like, what, 30 plus years ago?
It's been a minute.
I don't think they care anymore. So Celeste, kind of watching what we saw with Voltron, Defender of the Universe, and then Beast King GoLion. What were some of the differences that kind of popped out? What really popped out to you about between the two things?
Well, there was more killing in the GoLion, and there was definitely more of Japanese culture.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an avid fan of anime personally. I don't watch as much as I probably could or should, but I watch enough that I feel like I can say I'm an anime fan. I'm not otaku like Dallas likes to say. I think he is, but
I'm not. I don't think I am. I have appreciation for Japanese. I'm not otaku, and true otakus would be like, no, it's a lie, and I agree with them. Now, Takun, our friend Takun, she's otaku.
She is otaku,
but we're not.
you're closer than I am.
Okay.
And I have no idea where I was going with that because we went on that little tangent.
We were talking about the differences and
the differences.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and then it was much less reused footage.
Mm-hmm.
Like Voltron Defender of the Universe, you saw the same scene. Like, those poor snakes were killed 6 or 7 times.
Right.
In one show.
Yeah.
You're like, how did this even happen? Why are there that many snakes on a planet that's supposed to be dead?
Good point. With that being said, I think it'd be good for me to interject with kind of the story synopsis of both series.
Okay.
All right. So our listeners have some context. Let's go ahead and start with the 80s, which is what a lot of us know and understand because, you know, we grew up with it. Oh, man, I can't find it now. I'm going to have to cut this later probably, or we'll just leave it in there. But it is real life right here, guys. Hold on 1 second. All right. So the IMDb says, and this is a junk review on IMDb, and I am very sad to hear this. That this is what they have. This series focused on 5 lion robots and their pilots as they fight the evil forces of King Zarkon and Prince Lotor.
Wow.
Yeah, that was not good. If you look at the Wikipedia page, it's listed as Voltron Defender of the Universe is an American animated television series that features a team of astronauts who pilot giant super robot known as Voltron, initially produced as a joint venture between World Events Productions and Toei Animation. Now that being Beast King GoLion, though, very similar but different to a degree. And I kind of like it, personally, the way it plays out. GoLion's story is set in 1999. Let that sink in. When the planet Altea is subdued and enslaved by the Galarian Empire, meanwhile, 5 space pods return to Earth from their latest space exploration, only to find the planet annihilated by a thermonuclear war, aka World War III. Suddenly, the explorers are ambushed, captured, and enslaved, and then they are forced to fight for their lives in Emperor Dibazil.
Wait, I remember how they say it, I think. It was Dibazil.
Right, yeah. Arena. All right, so we've got some different things already happening in this. The young pilots escape and eventually land on the planet Altea, where they discover the secret of the mighty sentient robot GoLion. The only weapon powerful enough to defeat Emperor
Diabasian.
forces.
I could be saying this very wrong, and if so, I apologize.
Right. So, and then it lays out, this is an interesting part, and this is where, this is the differences that I saw that mainly, and you and I talked about this earlier before we saw this. In Voltron, you got these space explorers. They're from Earth, essentially, part of the Galaxy Garrison. They're sent to this planet to help them out. There's somebody back home knows everything's cool, and they land on this planet. They are captured by Zarkon, but they escape. They go to planet Eris.
Yeah.
Instead of Altea. Now on Eris, they meet the princess and this guy who I can't remember his name, the bodyguard. But
oh, I know it.
Yeah, right. But anyways, so they meet and then they go, hey, here's the 5 lions, and they get going. And like there's this sense that like they just know what's happening.
Yeah.
But it's technology that was there before. They created the lions, all this other stuff. But in this, it's very different. Obviously, you have the names are different, but it's also far more tragic.
Yeah, it is.
You know, it's more post-apocalyptic. The Earth has been destroyed by World War III, which this is 81, so this is kind of Cold War era. So that was some real-life stuff happening. And
so basically, the Japanese people thought that we would have obliterated Earth by 1991.
99.
99.
Yeah.
99.
So,
still.
But this is one of the reasons why I enjoy a lot of Japanese stuff is because they put a lot of very pointed political stuff in their series.
Uh-huh.
You know, they, again, this is Cold War era. And so like, look, you know, this is a legit thing. This could happen. And jumping off of it, they create this world. And again, it's far more tragic. Like you said, there's a lot more killing, a lot more dying. The Voltron is called GoLion, and he was a sentient robot from, like, how would I say, 1,000 years ago. And the way the storyline reads, it goes, 1,000 years ago, GoLion was an arrogant robot who defeated several beastmen, tried to challenge the goddess of the universe into battle, but failed. For GoLion's hubris, the goddess taught him humility by separating him into 5 pieces to form in the form of 5 lion robots, and sailed through space and crash landed on Altea to lay in wait for those who would one day reawaken him to fight evil once again.
Now, I will say this. We only watched GoLion up until the point of where the lions formed Voltron, and it was kind of odd because it's all the same scenes from Voltron.
Mm-hmm.
Or they formed GoLion, I'm sorry. But the story behind it was so much more complex.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm intrigued to see what happens because in GoLion, he was sentient.
Mm-hmm.
He did things by himself.
Right.
So I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen and see if it continues to be sentient or if he continues to be mechanical.
Right. So
I'm a real boy. Like that's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I found it to be very interesting. I'm a big fan of Voltron. Grew up watching Voltron. I have now all 5 of the 10 box sets, the ones that were I made out of 10 with the lions. As of today, I was recording. We had an early birthday party for me. My mom had it for us, and she gave me the 5th box set, which I've been looking for like 10 years. I've been looking for this box set, the 5th portion of it, and I'm so excited to have it. But I never watched GoLion. I knew that was different. Like I knew like one of the major, like several major things is like they took out all killing.
Yeah.
Because in the 80s, they couldn't show that on television for children. So they took out anybody who died. The one character who was a main character that did die in the series, they rewrote the script and did it so that he got injured and went back to Galaxy Garrison to get well. And then later in the series, he comes back on a secret mission. And but in the original GoLion, this is kind of a spoiler for you.
Oh, good.
It's his twin brother that comes back.
Oh, wow.
To take care of some stuff.
That's horrible.
Right? And they also did other things they chopped out. Like a lot of the scenes where they're eating, they chopped out of the American version and replaced everything because they're eating like rice balls and using chopsticks. They didn't think that American kids would relate to it or they wouldn't understand what was happening in the scene.
Little did they know.
Exactly. So that's the reason why, because there's so much choppiness, that we see so much repeat of things.
Yeah.
So much stuff that's being like this is taken and then reused and like you said, those poor snakes were shot at like 3 times, the exact same one episode.
The
exact same shot.
So an example of in my opinion, somehow the storyline suffered. Because again, they're creating their own storyline loosely based on GoLion. But there's a scene where the team for the Lions are fighting this monster, and it looks like they defeat the monster, but they all get knocked out. Well, in GoLion, you realize they didn't defeat the monster; they just kind of knocked him out and knocked themselves out. So nobody won; everybody just kind of passed out. Like they fought so hard, they all passed out.
Right.
So, I mean, but that wasn't explained in the Voltron. So while we're watching it, I'm going, but that doesn't make sense.
Right.
Like, what's going on here? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, there are a lot of small things like that just didn't happen. So that being said, we talked about differences because we want to be positive about some of this stuff. Tell me something about GoLion that you enjoyed.
I think I enjoy. Is it Allura? Is that the princess's name?
In the new series, or in the 80s, 84 it was.
Okay.
Not in GoLion.
What was it in GoLion?
I really can't remember now.
I kind of liked her character better in
Princess Faria.
Ah, gotcha. I liked Princess Faria better than Princess Allura, simply because Princess Allura was the typical, oh, there's a thing.
Right.
Let me run away and let the big strong men get it. And don't get me wrong, men, I appreciate you. Because there are things that I just will not kill, or fires I will not put out.
We didn't really see much of her do anything in the first couple of episodes.
It's the way that she was, like, the way she talked, the few lines she had.
Because she did have fewer lines in this.
She did have fewer lines, and I do have a problem with that. But the way she handled things when she did have lines, it was much more the hey, I'm going to take charge of this. It's going to be okay. I'm going to handle this, but I could use your help.
Right.
As opposed to I'm going to let you handle everything, especially in her relationship with the advisor, which I also really, really appreciated. They gave some backstory in GoLion about the military advisor, Rabel.
Yeah, Rabel. That's what his name was.
He, in the GoLion, he actually saved Faia's life from, not Zarkon in this one.
Yeah.
But the guy who they named Zarkon. Because he had come to the planet and killed the royal family. So he saved her life by smuggling her out. So I appreciated them giving him some more depth as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And another great example of that, and I like that too. But like the scene where they're going to the king's coffin to find the keys to activate Voltron. She's like, he stops her. He's like, hey, look, I can't let you do this. You can't see the body. And in the American version in Voltron, it's just kind of awkward, like, oh, this would be hard for you. And she's like, oh, I've visited my father many times. I feel stronger when I'm near him. But in this, it's so much more tragic because he's like, no, I don't want you to come with me because I can't I can't bear to have you see what's happened to him. And they do this flashback sequence where the king is standing in defiance, even to the bitter end, and he's beheaded.
Yeah.
And she didn't know about this. But you see this great aspect of her where she's like, you see her struggle from him, where she's shocked. But then she goes, no, I've got to do this.
Yeah.
I'm going to fight with these heroes.
Well, and I also am curious because when they enter the the burial chambers, there is the ghost of the king is there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm curious if she was not there, if he would have shown up.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I don't know. I don't think that was a thing for him for the storyline.
I don't think it was, but these are the things I think of.
So I liked just kind of the fleshing out of the story that we've seen here in GoLion. I like the fact that there's more of a backstory behind what GoLion is, and I appreciate the gravity of it. It has more gravity than the Voltron series.
Yeah. Well, and the comparison is for me, the best way to sum up that feeling is watching Voltron. I feel like I'm a little kid.
Yeah.
Now, I personally did not watch Voltron as a child, but it's the style of cartoon that I watched.
Right. Let's save that for when we talk about Voltron specifically.
Okay.
All right. I want to mention one more thing that I really enjoyed about Voltron, and that is the fact that, or not Voltron, GoLion, we're getting confused here, is the fact that in GoLion, it's so close to Mobile Suit Gundam, which came out back in 79. The music and the art style is very similar, which I noticed that when I got older, I started watching Gundam. I was like, oh, this looks very similar to Voltron. And then I realized that Voltron was a rewrite of GoLion, which was just a couple years later. But the scoring of it, the music score of it, I enjoy it. I think it adds a certain tone to it and intensity. Like there are several scenes in it where the music gives more intensity than in the American version, I think.
Right.
So, okay. So that being said, let's talk about things that we liked about Voltron, Defender of the Universe. So Celeste, what are some things that you liked?
It was very cute. Like I said earlier, it very much made me feel like I was watching a Saturday morning cartoon, which incidentally, we're watching it on Saturdays, whereas the GoLion felt like something I would watch now. It would be an anime I'd go, oh, I'm interested in this.
Yeah.
Let's watch it now.
Sure.
So that was, it's entertaining.
Sure.
It's not something that I would necessarily go, hey, let's watch Voltron. But if it's something that if it's on, I'm not going to be upset.
Yeah. I'm
not going to be like, oh, it's this.
Right.
I'll be engaged. I'll watch the storyline. It's
sure.
Intriguing, even though there's so many plot holes. Like I'm going, what is happening?
Yes. So I would say for me, if we can cue from our friends from Retro Rewind podcast, there's a lot of nostalgia for me because I grew up watching this. A lot of people my age grew up watching Voltron, so we had that love for it. But I appreciate as an adult the fact that the gravity, and this is going to sound weird, I appreciate the gravity is not there that's in GoLion.
Yeah.
That they were purposely going, okay, we want to make something for kids.
Yeah.
And so they took out,
Because GoLion is definitely not necessarily for kids.
Not little kids.
No.
Maybe like older kids, like closer to like the 12, 13 years old, maybe 11-ish, but not the younger ones. And that's what I feel like that Voltron was targeting in their series. And I appreciated that as someone who's worked with kids over the years. I appreciate the fact that they were trying to create stuff for them that wasn't going to be just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, we kind of see a lot of kids' television today.
We do.
It's either, like, super kiddie and ridiculous, or it's like, okay, you guys are pushing some serious boundaries. Now, there's some things I didn't like they took out, like where they're eating Japanese food and stuff like that. I feel like that was ridiculous.
Well, I feel like that was more of a political play than anything else. It was a different world, different time frame, different mindset.
Sure. So, but I do appreciate that they were trying to make something for kids themselves.
Right.
So, anything else you want to add that you liked about it?
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, then let's move forward in this little trip through time to 2016. We have released the Netflix version of Voltron. And this isn't the first re-release of Voltron, or remake of Voltron, but it's the first one I think that's been good. That's been good. It's coming out with the third season soon.
Yeah.
And a lot of good stuff's happened. In fact, our episode Geek Devotions that Retro Rewind did was based off of this particular one. It's called Voltron Legendary Defender. And so let's look at that and compare it to Voltron Defender of the Universe. What are some things that you saw that they're kind of different between the two of them, Celeste?
I think some of the differences are the time frames.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the 80s, you would not hear a joke about flatulence.
Yeah.
They made several.
Fart jokes and vomit jokes.
Several. I mean, they made jokes about him, the hunk guy vomiting in the first one, but it wasn't as graphic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting here going, "Oh, good! I'm watching this as a 8-year-old child."
Right.
Like it's an 8-year-old boy on the screen.
Right.
So it was much more younger child to me.
Right.
But it was also the differences between it, because back then that was just not something you did.
Yep, I'd agree to that. I think some of the other differences we saw is they almost brought back some of the gravity of the original series, the GoLion, and I feel like that they paid more homage to it. Like they paid homage to both of them.
Yeah, they did.
But they definitely brought back some of the Japanese stuff, like Vin, or Sven, S-V-E-N, Sven, who talks like this. It's kind of a weird accent.
That was annoying to me.
He was the one that dies.
Yeah.
But in the Netflix series, they call him Shiro, which is a shortened version of the name of the original Japanese name for that character.
Yes.
They also changed some dynamics, like the fact that he's so much older, and he's the leader of the group instead of Rick. I didn't understand. Yeah. I don't know if it was like because they're trying to match people's colors more to their lines, because that was one of the things. Another one that they weren't matched up quite right.
Yeah.
So, but
I don't know. But I kind of like Shin's character. Like, he's the one that I relate to the most out of all of them. So I think that I actually really want to continue the series, even though it's like, it's not something that I'll go, oh, I'm going to watch this. Like, I have shows that I'm like, yes, I'm going to watch this right now, because that's what I'm in the mood for. But at some point, I would like to finish it, because I feel like I know where they're going to go with some things. I'm like, I wonder if I'm right.
Yeah.
But personally, I think that they may have switched the leaders, because originally they were, didn't you say that they did the Red because Red was always leader because of Sentai Senpai? Is that what you said?
Super Sentai.
Super Sentai.
That is one thing to bring up. You know, in Japan, they've had Super Sentai for years, which in the American side of things was later called Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And the Red Ranger was the one who wore red was always the leader of the group. And so it kind of made sense in GoLion and even in Voltron that the guy in red was the leader.
Right. Well, and I'm wondering if because the series is a Netflix series, and I don't know if Netflix is an American company or not, but I'm pretty sure it's not Japanese.
Yeah.
Doesn't have that mindset that red should be the leader, that they went, hey, black is the middle of the body, so let's make him the leader.
Right.
And then out of that came this character.
Right, possibly. Now, there's another aspect to that we can pull out, and then we're going kind of way off base. But in Super Sentai, you always had the rogue sixth man. There was the person who everyone was like, oh, they are so cool, and they wanted to be them. And at times, they kind of took over leadership in a different format.
Yeah.
This was your Green Ranger, your White Ranger, your Gold Ranger. These were these characters who.
So basically, Jason David Frank. But he wasn't the Gold Ranger. But like anybody who grew up watching Power Rangers, they know what I'm talking about. There was that sixth man who joined the team that everyone was like, man, they are so cool. They have something special about them. When you'll discover later that Shiro actually has something else special about him in the new Netflix series. And so I wonder. Other than he can make his hand into a weapon?
Yes.
That was pretty intense.
There's a lot more depth to him as a character. And so I wonder if maybe they're treating him as a sixth man because, and they're going to bring Rick in, not Rick, what's his name? Oh, I can't remember. The red one. And they're going to treat their version of Allura as the other fifth person. Because she's actually a Voltron pilot also.
I'm trying to figure out who was red. Was it the cocky guy?
No, the cock guy's blue.
Yeah.
So anyways, all right, so what are some things that stuck out to you that you're like, yeah, I like this, like about, like some nods to the other series that you enjoyed?
I don't know, because I didn't notice them until I was watching the other series. Because for me, you and I had watched the first several episodes of Voltron Defender of the Universe.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we had watched the first episode of Voltron Legendary Defender.
Right.
But then we went back after we watched Legendary Defender, then we went back and watched Voltron Defender of the Universe, and then we went and watched GoLion.
Right.
So some of the homages, the tributes, the things, the little hidden Easter eggs, I'm like, oh, that's why they put that there. I didn't notice it until afterwards because I was inexperienced coming into it. Like, you had to explain to me about the trash can thing.
Yeah. And for those of you listening, there's a scene in the new series. It's like in the first episode where the two characters, they hide in trash cans, and it's a blue trash can and a yellow trash can with a white stripe down the middle, and it looks like the legs of Voltron in the exact position that Voltron colored legs were set up. And so I will say this, and this is what I enjoy the most about the new series, is that it really does pay homage and honor to both the previous series. I'm sure there's stuff from the ones that are in between the 84 Voltron and this one, but I appreciate that it shows honor. I feel like there's a lack of that in culture today, where we're showing honor for the things that came before us. And you see this across the board and basically everything, in music genres and in books and in politicians and in life and in succession. There seems to be a lack of honor for those who came before us.
Well, and I feel like that most people do not have that culture of honor.
Mm-hmm.
So the Japanese culture, now I'm not so sure about modern day because I don't follow a lot of modern day Japanese culture, but the old culture was very honoring. And whereas Americans' old culture was rebellion from England, so it's like it's the two different bases. We definitely don't have a culture of honor in today's society.
Yeah, I can see that, and I agree completely. There is a lack of honor for not just people but position.
Yeah,
and so
you can have honor for a position even if you don't like the person in the
absolutely.
position.
And I feel like Netflix honors both of the previous mainstays.
Yeah.
The GoLion, GoLion and Voltron Defender of the Universe. It pays honor to them, and I really appreciate that a lot. So I think that's it. Anything else you want to add about this topic?
No, I think we're good.
All right. So that being said, guys, thanks so much for taking time to listen to Comm Talk today. If you love this episode, head over to iTunes, subscribe to our podcast, rate and please rate this podcast and leave a review. And do us a favor also, share this out. If you guys enjoy what we're doing here on our podcast on Comm Talk, share it out and let people know that there's something else out there. Again, we take this and yeah, it's fun. We talk about geeky stuff, but we always try to have something meaningful in these conversations at the same time. So anyways, until next Sunday, my wonderful devoted geeks.
Stay devoted.
Peace and love, guys.